Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to the presentation of Breastfeeding France for this World Breastfeeding Week 2024 with the theme Closing the Gap, Breastfeeding Support for All. The title of this session is Closing the Gap, What Can We Do? I am Dr. Evelyn Ruff. I am lactation consultant and consultant to Breastfeeding France Society. This session will be divided in two parts. We cannot talk about the World Breastfeeding Week without explaining what is WABA. WABA, the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action. It has been founded in 1991. This is the website. It's a global network of individuals and organizations dedicated to the protection, promotion, and support of breastfeeding worldwide. WABA is in consultative status with UNICEF. It works closely with many organizations and individuals. And the partners of WABA are the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, which is ABM, IPFAN, ILCA, La Leche International, UNICEF, WHO, and several other international organizations. The World Breastfeeding Week, WBW, is an action organized by WABA. It's celebrated every year in the first week of August since 1992. There is a theme which is changing every year. You can find it on this website. And every year, WABA prepares a package to make it easier for everywhere around the world with the logo for the theme of the year, the logo, an action folder with a lot of suggestions and ideas, a poster, press release. These are the action folders from 92. You can find them and you can even download them. They are still available on the website. So you can see every year another topic, another theme with lots of good information. It is nice in the recording. You can stop and spend more time to watch something you want. So now we reach the recent years. They put mostly the logo. And now 2024. This is Closing the Gap, Breastfeeding Support for All. This is the theme of this World Breastfeeding Week. You can find it on this website. This is the poster. This is the action folder, 18 pages. And it is both are available in 8 languages, including Arabic. Let's have a look at the action folder. Of course, we'll not go through the 18 pages, but let us share the introduction. We live in a world where the great majority, and in many countries the vast majority of women are choosing to breastfeed. Yet very few can breastfeed for as long as they want. And the poorer the women are, the less likely they are to meet their breastfeeding goals. This huge inequity that violates the right that women have to breastfeed their infants for as long as they wish is clearly driven by structural, organizational, interpersonal, and community determinants of infant feeding choices. These include aggressive and deceptive marketing from the commercial milk formula industry, lack of maternity parental leave, workplace, and community support. This action folder outlines the main causes of inequalities at different levels and provides some suggested actions to help close the gaps. Now, this really gives you an overview of the content. This is another picture taken from the action folder, Inequalities in Breastfeeding, Underlying Factors and Possible Solutions or Actions. The same observation is stated in a poster from WHO for this breastfeeding week. Many women do not breastfeed for as long as they would like. And this observation is not only for the poorest countries or the poorest population, even in high-income countries like UAE. I suppose you all agree with this statement. For which reasons? If we want to close the gap, we need to identify the gap. And what is missing actually the S, because there are many gaps, whether in promotion, support, or protection of breastfeeding. For example, in antenatal care, the staff and the mothers focus mostly on the monitoring of the pregnancy and the birth, preparation for the birth. There is no much place for breastfeeding education. Then what is the choice for the hospital? Many women, even if they take some breastfeeding education, but then they choose a hospital which is not baby friendly, there will be a gap there between what they know and what will be implemented. So the best choice would be to choose a baby friendly or even a mother friendly hospital. Another gap at birth. How many women and babies benefit of a whole hour of skin-to-skin contact after birth, which can be done even after C-section in the OT. And then in the maternity ward, many women do not have the rooming in or the skilled support necessary to overcome some initial difficulties, or their baby is readmitted because of this and then they cannot stay with their baby. Mothers are submitted to a lot of expectation from their family or the community, which can be very unsupportive. For example, if they receive a lot of guests, even when they are still in the hospital, and they have to be on show, like on day one, they need, and you know, many mothers, they need to be with the, nice clothing and maquillage and everything, and the room needs to be decorated. And where is the bonding and breastfeeding in this setting? Then another gap. Even if they get good care in the hospital, then they are back at home. Usually we'll have the copious milk supply coming on with the engorgement. If it's not well managed, it can lead to a severe engorgement. And then when is the follow-up appointment? Another gap. For some facilities, it will be there is no follow-up appointment, or very late, or it's not about breastfeeding. If mothers encounter difficulties, how many do have access to skilled support? For example, the only lactation clinic level 3 in the UAE in Sharjah Family Health Promotion Center needs more staff, needs a full-time doctor. And for many mothers or many babies, the next appointment is at 2 months for the first vaccination. A big gap between going out from the hospital and this 2 months. This is so crucial period. And even at the 2 months appointment, the focus for many mothers, many babies would be on the vaccination. This is one of the visual from the Closing the Gap package. Lack of breastfeeding support during the critical first week negatively affects the overall breastfeeding intentions and prevalence. If mothers receive the skilled support, timely skilled support, they can continue breastfeeding and breastfeed as long as they wish. If they don't receive it, should not be surprised that they stop with the introduced formula. Another important visual. breastfeeding can act as an equalizer in our society, and efforts must be made to ensure everyone, especially the vulnerable group, has access to breastfeeding support and opportunities. So vulnerable groups can be from economic point of view or accessibility point of view. Some babies who have special issues, rare diseases, some mothers who have challenges like visual, auditive challenges. They should all have access to timely, expert, skilled breastfeeding support. For many families, the lack of support is an issue, especially expatriate families. They don't have their own parents here. For the citizen, there is a very nice custom to have the mother who just delivered to stay 40 days in her own mother's home, where she is completely taken care of. So this is a wonderful custom, except if the family members are not supportive about breastfeeding, which does happen. Another issue, another big gap is the length of the maternity leave. It is improved in the recent years, but still it's lower in the private sector. For example, also students in university, they have only 1 week, or they will miss the whole semester. Teachers in some private schools or some employees with special contracts, they don't benefit of enough maternity leave. And after maternity leave, even if it is long enough, going back to work by itself is a challenge. Many mothers don't have enough information on how to manage practically, or they don't find any support from their colleagues or from the supervisors to give them the time and the place to maintain the milk production. Breastfeeding difficulties don't happen only in the early days or weeks. Some things can happen later on, and many mothers who have nipple infection or mastitis, or they don't know where to go, they don't find healthcare professionals who are knowledgeable enough in breastfeeding. So this is also a gap. And now a big obstacle, a big issue is the aggressive marketing of the formula industry. They are really trying their best to make mothers think that their milk is almost the same as mother's milk, and it is not true at all. There are laws which exist in many countries, but unfortunately there are some weaknesses or loopholes, or they are not implemented seriously. Among the solutions, there is a whole initiative from WABA which can really help to close the gaps. And I would like to take some time in this presentation about the World Breastfeeding Week to present to you this initiative, the warm chain of support for breastfeeding. So warm chain is an analogy. It's like reminding us about the cold chain, which is very well known in many industries, especially food industry, how to get the product to the final destination. You have to respect the cold chain without any interruption. This initiative from WABA is emphasizing that the support is the key, and it is well illustrated by the breastfeeding symbol. The international symbol, everybody knows the symbol for breast cancer awareness, for diabetes, is for arthritis. But there is one for breastfeeding, it is the golden bow. It is the international symbol of breastfeeding. And what is interesting that there are some meanings. So if we look at, each part has a meaning. We have the mother in one, and then opposite the baby. And then number 3 and 4 are the recommendations, the first 6 months exclusive breastfeeding, and then continuing for 2 years or more with adequate homemade food. But what is really, really, really so important and makes all the parts hold together is the knot. And this is the support. Supportive father, family, and society. So we cannot make mothers responsible or they have to shoulder everything when we speak of breastfeeding. No, it's impossible. They really need the support. So this warm chain of support of breastfeeding campaign places the mother-baby dyad at the core. It follows the first 1,000 days timeline. We'll see what it means. And it clearly shifts the responsibility from the mothers to many actors. So as I was just saying just before, it's not the responsibility of the mother alone. There's so many more people involved to make a difference for each baby and mother. So the continuum of care during the first 1,000 days. So this warm chain should not be interrupted for the first 1,000 days. First 1,000 days mean from pregnancy to the baby reaching 2 years. It means it covers antenatal care, delivery and postpartum care, and well as the care beyond 6 weeks. And now if you look at the actors, do you see they even didn't put the mother here. So many actors with going from the academician, you see lactation consultant, midwives, but also policymaker, the peer supporter, family member, employer, employee, all of them have a role. On the website of the warm chain, you can find a survey to identify, like if you have breastfeeding counselor from Breastfeeding Friends, where do you have an action? Are you counseling pregnant women? Are you also a doula? So you have an action during the labor and delivery. Who is involved in the first few hours and the first month, and then in the ongoing support? And is it counseling or screening for difficulties, teaching, or solving the problems? So many actors can have a role at different parts of time and different types of support. WABA has designed like postcards for each of these actors to sensitize them, to make them aware of the importance of their role. Each postcard has on the left side a text. This is the same one for all of the different actors, which is explaining the benefits, or I would prefer to say the importance of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding matters because it is a low-cost way of providing the best nutrition for the baby. It protects the baby against common illnesses, both in the short and long term. It reduces the risk of cancer and other conditions in the mother. The cost of not breastfeeding is huge for families and nations. Breastfeeding is also a climate-smart decision and key to the Sustainable Development Goals. They remind here also the WHO and UNICEF recommendations about the early initiation of breastfeeding within the first hour of birth, exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, and continuing breastfeeding up to 2 years of age or beyond, with the introduction of nutritionally adequate and safe complementary solid foods at 6 months, at the end of 6 months. Now we will see what are the Sustainable Development Goals. Protecting, promoting, and supporting breastfeeding addresses inequalities that stand in the way of sustainable development. This visual is in the website for the World Breastfeeding Week. I think you all have heard about these Sustainable Development Goals. They are published on the website of the United Nations. There are 17 goals. And you can see that all those who are in blue here, breastfeeding has a role in reaching this goal. So the aim is to reach these goals by 2030. And this one about no poverty, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities. Breastfeeding is associated with adding $302 billion annually in additional income to the world economy, nearly 0.5% of the world gross national industry. Breastfeeding has an impact on these three goals. This comes from this document. You have the link here from UNICEF. Also for the goals 2, zero hunger, and 3, good health and well-being. Breastfeeding is a vital source of nutrition that can save children's lives and contribute to improved health outcomes for children and mothers. Goal 4, quality education. The association between breastfeeding and higher IQs and education attainment can contribute to efforts to achieving global learning targets. Gender equality. Breastfeeding is linked to critical equality issues, including birth spacing and workplace rights. And last one, responsible consumption and production. Breast milk does not require industry for production and is created and consumed with a minimal ecological footprint. Just this statement, this slide would warrant a full presentation on the difference between, or if no baby in the world would breastfeed, how many more cows we would need, we would not have enough space, and the carbon imprint, and what to do with all the tins, the packages, the ink, the fuel. It's a huge impact. So now we'll have a look to these different cards. The last three numbers, the last three numbers for each card are the same. Work together with others to ensure a continuum of care, the warm chain of support for the mother-baby diet. Then, do not accept any gifts, samples, sponsorship, or displays of infant formula, bottles, or teats from companies. So this is protection from the marketing. And then, open question, how else can you protect, promote, and support breastfeeding? So the last 3 points for each card. So I will not repeat them. And then for each, then the first points are like specific to, for example, this is academician, like a university professor. Okay, so make sure that the adequate information in the curriculum taught in your institution. This would be great progress. Prioritize research in breastfeeding. So if you do research, don't forget this field. And then support the dissemination. You do research, then make sure that the results are known and implemented. Fathers, I think I will not read all the points, and you know yourself that fathers are an important member of the breastfeeding team. When fathers support breastfeeding and are involved in caring for the baby, breastfeeding improves, the parental relationship is better, and the infants develop more quickly. So really the points are, each one is important. I suggest you make pause and you read them in your own rhythm. Because it's very interesting, but I don't want to make a too long session either. But you can see just some key points, like ask the father to learn himself about breastfeeding and how it works, communicate with the mother, pay attention to her, create an environment, share domestic tasks, like help the mother with the older children, spend extra time with older children, so the mother will have time for the baby. And many, artificial milk companies, they suggest the father to bottle feed so that he will have a role. No, you can have a unique bond with your baby during exclusive breastfeeding, because you can have active interaction, carrying, cuddling, caring for the baby. It's not a must to give bottle to bond with your baby. for the father. Yeah. So discuss, share, and share your experiences with other fathers. This is peer support. This is very important, and I dream that we would open at least a WhatsApp group for fathers within Breastfeeding France. It would be very useful. The midwives, you all know how important it is. But many midwives doing their studies, they don't have so much on breastfeeding, and they need to learn after completing, and many midwives become lactation consultants. Pediatricians always ask about breastfeeding during consultation. And the title, pediatricians need to be aware of the strong influence they have on parents over infant health issues. Many of you, the peer counselors, breastfeeding counselors, you know that you give the best information to the mothers, but sometimes just the doctor said this, pediatrician said this. Even if it is wrong, it has such a weight for the mother or for the parents that it's like cancels your good information that you have shared with the mother. So it's so important that the gynaes and pediatricians have it right. Okay, do not prescribe infant formula without a proper medical indication. All these things. Nutritionists and dietitians, they have also a role. They can become lactation consultant, and it's so important also. I will not read the points for the lactation consultants because it's like so clear that certified lactation consultants, I would say not only certified, but certified and experienced lactation consultants. Unfortunately, many get the exam without proper thorough field experience. And sometimes it's not easy actually to have access to a clinic where it's accepted to do the training. So certified lactation consultants play a multidisciplinary role that straddles generalized support for breastfeeding and allied healthcare, like they make between peer counselors and healthcare professionals. And this improves maternal and infant survival, health, and well-being throughout the antenatal, birth, and postnatal periods. Mother support groups, like Breastfeeding France, have an important role in the continuation of breastfeeding support for families in the community. They can provide women and their families with timely and accurate information, as well as practical and emotional support to promote optimal breastfeeding. And this is what Breastfeeding France is striving to do with the several support line, WhatsApp groups, visits, mother supports, visits in the hospital, and the very important breast pump services. And of course, the training every year to train experienced mothers or committed healthcare professionals to become breastfeeding counselor. Community members. So even if you're not part of BFF, you can play an important role in promoting and advocating for breastfeeding in the society. Community members can share personal experiences and strategies and have a positive influence on infant feeding choices. Those were the green, I remember the lectures from the green chair. It's so important to include breastfeeding with the environment, climate initiatives, and the Sustainable Development Goals. So we should really share with these associations for this common goal. And important to reinforce the message that breastfeeding contributes to food security and the health of the planet. And in the programs for school children, students, youth, social media, also to include breastfeeding. Because breastfeeding is a locally available and renewable food. Young people, they have the power to change social norms by utilizing innovative approaches and using diverse channels. Young people, they have so many skills to communicate through social media, and they can do a lot. So even if they are not yet personally concerned by breastfeeding, they can still advocate for it and share the messages with their specific skills. We now reached the end of part 1 of this presentation from Breastfeeding Friends, where we explain about WABA, the theme of this World Breastfeeding Week 2024, Closing the Gap, Breastfeeding Support for All, and this initiative of WABA, the warm chain of support for breastfeeding, which can help to close the gap. Let's continue with the part 2.